I am Linus, 32 years old, a software engineer from Boston who spent years saving for my dream car and home. Last April during my birthday dinner, my younger brother Tyler casually announced, "I am taking your Audi," as if ordering dessert. My parents nodded in agreement. Like this was perfectly reasonable. When I refused, Dad leaned forward and said, "Then hand us the keys to the house too." I just smiled and nodded through dinner. They had no idea what would await them the next morning. Before I dive into this story that changed my life, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button if you have ever had to stand up to family who took you for granted. Growing up in a middle-class neighborhood in Medford, Massachusetts, my family dynamics were established early. My parents, Robert and Martha, never tried to hide their preference for my younger brother Tyler. 5 years, my junior Tyler could do no wrong in their eyes. From elementary school playground fights to teenage rebellions, his behavior was always excused with phrases like, "Boys will be boys," or "he is just finding himself." Meanwhile, I was constantly reminded to be the bigger person. This meant giving up my toys when Tyler wanted them, letting him tag along with my friends even when I wanted space, and eventually surrendering my bedroom when he decided mine had better light for his gaming setup. I learned to accept this uneven treatment as normal, believing that someday my parents would recognize my sacrifices. When college applications rolled around, I worked tirelessly to earn a partial scholarship to Boston University, while maintaining 2 part-time jobs to cover the remainder of my expenses. I rarely asked my parents for financial help, knowing that they were already stretching to keep Tyler in private school after he was asked to leave the public system due to behavioral issues. After graduating with honors in computer science, I landed an entry-level position at a promising tech startup. My salary was modest, but I lived frugally, sharing an apartment with 3 roommates and taking public transportation while building my savings. Meanwhile, Tyler had dropped out of 3 different colleges each time, with a different excuse about why the program was not right for him or how the professors had it out for him. As I advanced in my career, Tyler bounced between jobs, retail positions. He found boring restaurant work that had bad hours and sales gigs where the managers did not appreciate his talents. He never stayed anywhere longer than 6 months. Throughout this period, my parents supported him financially, paying his rent, covering his car insurance, and even handling his credit card bills when they became overwhelming. By 28, I had saved enough for a down payment on a modest 3-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood just outside Boston. It was not extravagant, but it was mine. Well, almost mine. My parents insisted on co-signing the mortgage, claiming it would help me get a better interest rate. At the time, I saw it as a rare show of support and gratefully accepted their offer, not realizing it would later become leverage against me. Last year, after securing a major promotion to senior development manager, I finally felt financially secure enough to splurge on something I had wanted since college, a midnight blue Audi S5. It was not the most expensive luxury car, but to me it represented years of hard work and careful planning. I still remember the feeling of driving it off the lot, the leather seats still carrying that new car smell, the engine purring as I navigated it home. That car was not just transportation, it was a symbol of everything I had achieved, despite never being the favorite child. As my financial situation improved, I noticed a shift in family dynamics. My parents began making more frequent comments about how blessed I was and how challenging things were for Tyler. These conversations inevitably led to suggestions about how I could help out my struggling brother. At first, it was small things, covering dinner when we went out as a family, or lending Tyler a few $100s when he was between jobs. Then the requests grew larger. There was the time Tyler needed $3,000 for apartment deposits after being evicted from his previous place. Then came $5,000 for an emergency dental procedure not covered by insurance. Each time I was promised repayment. Each time the money vanished like it had never existed, and any mention of repayment was met with accusations that I was obsessed with money or did not understand what family meant. 2 weeks before my 32nd birthday, Tyler totaled his car, a 7-year-old Honda Civic our parents had purchased for him after his previous vehicle met a similar fate. According to Tyler, a truck had cut him off, forcing him to swerve into a guardrail. The police report told a different story: excessive speed possible, distracted driving, and a blood alcohol level just under the legal limit. Thankfully, no one was injured, but Tyler's car was beyond repair, and his insurance refused to cover the damage due to the circumstances. In the days leading up to my birthday, I noticed an unusual pattern of texts and calls from my family. My mother wanted to know my work schedule. My father asked detailed questions about my car's features. Tyler suddenly became interested in my neighborhood, asking about parking regulations and security systems. At the time, I thought they might be planning a surprise party, or perhaps a special gift. How wrong I was. April 15th. My 32nd birthday fell on a Friday last year. I had made reservations at Morton's, my favorite steakhouse, in downtown Boston. Despite the growing tension I had felt in recent conversations with my family, I was looking forward to a nice evening celebrating another year of life and achievements. I arrived at the restaurant first securing our table and ordering a bottle of Cabernet to share. When my parents and Tyler walked in 15 minutes late, I noticed immediately that something was off. My mother avoided eye contact as she kissed my cheek. My father's handshake was stiffer than usual, and Tyler had a strange, almost smug expression as he slid into the booth across from me. "Happy birthday, son," my father said, raising his glass in a half-hearted toast. My mother echoed the sentiment while Tyler merely nodded and immediately reached for the wine. The first half hour passed with superficial conversation. My mother talked about her garden club, my father complained about neighborhood property taxes, and Tyler scrolled through his phone occasionally, looking up to scan the room as if expecting to see someone he knew. I tried to maintain my enthusiasm sharing news about a project I had recently completed at work, but their responses were polite at best, distracted at worst. After we ordered our entrees, and the waiter had left, Tyler cleared his throat dramatically. "So Linus," he began, setting his phone screen down on the table. "I have got some news." I raised my eyebrows expectantly, assuming he might have finally secured a stable job or perhaps met someone special. "I am taking your Audi," he announced as casually as if he were telling me about the weather forecast. "Mom and Dad already agreed, it makes the most sense." The restaurant noise seemed to fade into the background as I processed his words. I looked at my parents expecting to see confusion or disagreement on their faces. Instead, I found them nodding along, my mother even offering a small apologetic smile. "What are you talking about?" I finally managed to ask, my voice low and controlled, despite the shock coursing through me. My father leaned forward. "Your brother needs reliable transportation, Linus. You know he lost his car in that unfortunate accident." "Unfortunate accident," I repeated incredulously. "He was speeding and drinking. The police report—" "That is all in the past," my mother interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. "The point is, family helps family. And you have that fancy car you hardly even use." "I drive it every day to work," I countered, still struggling to believe this conversation was actually happening. Tyler rolled his eyes. "You could take the train. It is better for the environment anyway." He smirked as if he had just made an irrefutable point. "I am not giving you my car, Tyler," I said firmly, setting my wine glass down with more force than intended. "I worked for years to afford that car. It is mine." "Do not be so selfish." My mother chided, her voice taking on the same tone she had used when I was 10, and refused to let Tyler play with my new bicycle. "It is just a car." Just a car. Just the $45,000 I had saved. Just the reward I had given myself after a decade of hard work and sacrifice. Just another thing they expected me to hand over to Tyler without question. "The answer is no," I said, attempting to redirect the conversation. "So, did anyone try the calamari appetizer I heard? It is excellent here." My father's face darkened as he ignored my attempt to change the subject. "If you cannot do this one thing for your brother, then perhaps you should hand us the keys to your house too." I blinked, momentarily confused. "What does my house have to do with anything?" "We co-signed that mortgage, remember?" he continued, his voice taking on a threatening edge. "We did you a favor, and this is how you repay us, by refusing to help your own brother in his time of need." The implications were clear. Though I had never missed a payment and had built substantial equity in the home, they were using their status as co-signers to pressure me. Could they actually cause problems with my ownership? I was not entirely sure, but the threat hung heavy in the air. "I understand family helps family," I said carefully, "but this feels very one-sided." "One-sided?" Tyler scoffed. "You have everything. The fancy job, the nice house, The expensive car? What do I have? Nothing. It was as if I were seeing my family clearly for the first time. The pattern of emotional manipulation, the constant expectation that I would sacrifice for Tyler's benefit, the complete disregard for my feelings or accomplishments, it had always been there, but never so blatantly displayed. "Your filet looks delicious," my mother said, suddenly gesturing to my plate, which had arrived during the tense exchange. "Should we all dig in before the food gets cold?" The abrupt subject change was typical. Avoid the uncomfortable truth, pretend everything is fine, sweep the conflict under the rug until the next time they wanted something from me. I picked up my fork and knife, cutting into the perfectly cooked steak that I no longer had any appetite for. "Sure, let us eat." The remainder of dinner passed in a haze of forced conversation and uncomfortable silences. I answered questions about work with minimal detail, laughed at my father's tired jokes without enthusiasm, and declined dessert, despite it being my birthday celebration. When the check arrived, my father made a show of reaching for it, then patted his pockets with an exaggerated frown. "Seems I forgot my wallet." "Linus, you would not mind covering this, would you? Consider it your treat to us on your special day." Of course. Why had I expected anything different? I placed my credit card on the small tray, without comment, signed the receipt, including a generous tip for our server who had endured our tense family dynamics, and stood to leave. The ride home was silent. My parents had driven separately, so it was just Tyler and me in my Audi, the car he apparently believed would be his within hours. He spent the entire drive texting occasionally, chuckling at his phone screen, completely oblivious to or unconcerned with my quiet fury. As I pulled into my driveway and put the car in park, Tyler finally spoke. "So, I will come by around 10 tomorrow to pick it up. I have got plans tomorrow night and need to make an impression." I looked at him for a long moment. This person who shared my blood, but seemingly none of my values. "Good night, Tyler," I said, simply exiting the car and walking toward my front door without looking back. Behind me I heard him call out, "Do not forget to have all your stuff out of it, and make sure there is a full tank of gas." I closed my front door, leaned against it, and finally allowed myself to feel the full weight of what had just transpired. Alone in my house, I slumped onto my couch, loosened my tie, and tried to process the events of the evening. The audacity of their demand kept replaying in my mind not just the request for my car, but the casual assumption that I would comply. The implied threat regarding my house added another layer of betrayal that made my stomach twist with anxiety and anger. As I sat in the dim light of my living room, memories from throughout my life began to surface. There was the Christmas when I was 14 and received a basic calculator for school while Tyler got the latest gaming system. The time I had to cancel my senior prom plans because Tyler had gotten into trouble at school and my parents needed me to set an example by staying home with him. The weekend I had planned to visit friends in New York, only to be guilted into helping Tyler move into a new apartment instead. Each incident on its own had seemed manageable, justifiable even, but strung together, they formed an undeniable pattern of expectation. My needs, my wants, my very autonomy was secondary to Tyler's, and it would continue this way indefinitely if I did not take action. At 11:30, I called Marcus my best friend since college, and the one person who had consistently seen through my family's dynamics. They did what he exclaimed after I recounted the dinner conversation. "On your birthday, man, that is next level entitled." I know I sighed, feeling slightly better just having someone validate my perspective. The worst part is, I am not even surprised. Just disappointed. "So what are you going to do?" Marcus asked. "Please tell me you are not actually giving him your car." "No," I said firmly. "But I am worried about the house thing. They did co-sign the mortgage. I am not sure what kind of power that gives them." "Hold on," Marcus said, and I could hear a keyboard clicking in the background. "I have got a buddy who works in real estate finance. Let me text him real quick." While waiting for Marcus to gather information, I opened my laptop and began my own research. According to several financial advice sites, co-signers on a mortgage have liability for the loan, but do not automatically have ownership rights to the property unless specifically named on the deed. Additionally, after establishing a history of on-time payments, and with my improved credit score, I likely qualified to refinance the mortgage in my name alone. Okay, Marcus said, returning to the call. Josh says that as long as your name is the only one on the deed and you have been making all the payments, your parents cannot actually do anything immediate about the house. They could potentially make things difficult if you ever miss payments, but they cannot just take it away. He says you should talk to your bank about refinancing options ASAP. Relief washed over me. Their threat was largely empty, a manipulation tactic rather than a genuine legal concern. But it revealed something important about their mindset and priorities. My parents were willing to threaten my housing stability to get what they wanted for Tyler. Thanks, Marcus. That helps a lot. I said, already opening a new browser tab to log into my bank's website. So, what is the plan? Just tell them no, and weather the storm of guilt trips. I thought for a moment, considering various approaches. A simple refusal would lead to more pressure, more manipulation, more accusations of selfishness. I needed something more definitive. Something that would clearly establish boundaries while sending a message about the consequences of their actions. I think I need to make a statement, I said slowly, the outline of a plan forming in my mind. Something they cannot ignore or explain away. I am listening, Marcus encouraged. By the time our call ended an hour later, I had a clear plan of action. It was bold, perhaps even dramatic, but it matched the severity of the situation. This was not just about a car. It was about years of being taken advantage of having my achievements minimized and my boundaries ignored. I spent the next hour researching secure storage facilities in the area, finding one with 24-hour access and excellent security features about 15 minutes from my house. I reserved a space online, paying for a month in advance. Next, I called Rachel, a friend from work who had recently become a real estate agent on the side. Though it was after midnight, she answered lightly, assuming it was an emergency. Linus. Everything okay? She asked, her voice thick with sleep. Sorry for the late call, Rachel. I have an unusual request. I explained the situation briefly, then asked, would it be possible for me to borrow a for sale sign tomorrow morning? I do not actually need to list the house, just need the sign. After a moment of confused silence, she agreed, though I could hear the concern in her voice. I will bring one by around 6:30, if that works. I have an early showing anyway. That would be perfect. Thank you. Next, I sent an email to a mortgage broker I had found online, requesting information about refinancing options and explaining my situation with the co-signers. I was surprised to receive an automated response that a representative would call me first thing in the morning. I also drafted an email to a real estate attorney requesting a consultation about my rights as the primary homeowner with co-signers on the mortgage. Even if my research was correct, I wanted professional confirmation. With these practical steps initiated, I turned my attention to more immediate preparations. I packed an overnight bag with essentials, not knowing exactly how the next day would unfold. I gathered important documents, the deed to my house, car, title, insurance papers, and financial records, and secured them in my fireproof safe. Setting my alarm for 4 a.m, I finally headed to bed, though sleep proved elusive. My mind kept returning to the dinner, to the entitlement in Tyler's voice, to the casual way my parents had dismissed my feelings and threatened my home. The anger that had been simmering all evening crystallized into resolve. This pattern would end tomorrow, one way or another. As I finally drifted towards sleep around 2 a.m, I felt an unexpected sense of calm. For perhaps the first time in my adult life, I was prioritizing my own well-being over family expectations. Whatever came next, I would face it on my own terms. The alarm's insistent beeping pulled me from a fitful sleep at 4 a.m. For a brief, disoriented moment, I forgot about the previous night's events. Then reality crashed back. The birthday dinner, the demand for my car, the threat against my house, and the plan I had formulated in response. I moved with quiet efficiency in the pre-dawn darkness. After a quick shower and coffee, I gathered the items I had prepared the night before. Car documents, house keys, a small duffel with essentials, and my laptop bag. There was still time to reconsider, to take a less dramatic approach. But as I thought about years of similar incidents of boundaries crossed and sacrifices demanded, my resolve strengthened. At 4:45, I backed my Audi out of the garage, closed it quietly, and drove through the sleeping neighborhood. The roads were nearly empty at this hour, just a few delivery trucks and early shift workers creating occasional pools of headlights in the darkness. The storage facility was on the outskirts of town, a modern building with keypad-secured entry and 24-hour video surveillance. "Good morning, sir," said the night manager, looking surprised to see a customer so early. "Checking in?" I nodded, showing the reservation I had made online. After completing the paperwork and receiving my access codes, I drove to my assigned unit, a clean, climate-controlled space, large enough for a single vehicle. I parked the Audi inside, ran my hand along its sleek hood one last time, and locked the unit. I had arranged for an Uber to take me back home, the driver looking curiously at the storage facility, but thankfully asking no questions. By 6:15, I was back at my house waiting for Rachel. She arrived precisely on time, stepping out of her car with a large "For Sale" sign under her arm and concern written across her face. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, as she handed me the sign. "This seems intense." "I know it does," I admitted. "But trust me, this is the wake-up call my family needs." After Rachel left, I positioned the sign prominently in my front yard, securing it firmly in the ground where it would be impossible to miss from either the street or the driveway. The bold red letters proclaimed, "For Sale," in a way that felt both terrifying and liberating. My next call was to the mortgage broker who had responded to my late-night email. She was extraordinarily helpful, explaining that with my payment history and improved credit score, refinancing to remove my parents as co-signers would be straightforward. She emailed me application forms to complete and suggested we could potentially close within 3 to 4 weeks. At 9:30, I met with an attorney specializing in real estate law. He confirmed what my research and Marcus's friend had suggested: my parents' co-signer status gave them financial liability but not property rights. He also advised documenting all communications going forward and offered to draft a formal letter establishing my intentions to refinance without them. "You are in a strong position legally," he assured me. "But family disputes can get messy in ways that transcend legal boundaries. Be prepared for emotional fallout." I was counting on that emotional fallout. The shock value of my actions was intentional, a clear message that I would no longer accept the established family dynamic. Returning home, I converted my dining room into a temporary office setup. With my company's flexible work policy, I could easily work remotely for a few days while the situation unfolded. I emailed my team lead, explaining I had a family situation to manage and would be working from home until further notice. As a final precaution, I turned off my phone. I knew that once my family discovered the empty driveway and "For Sale" sign, the calls and texts would be relentless. I needed space to execute the remainder of my plan without that immediate pressure. During a break from setting up my workspace, I walked through each room of my house, taking photos of my belongings and making notes about important items. It was unlikely that my family would take drastic action like trying to enter my home without permission, but the events of the past 24 hours had revealed a side of them I had not fully acknowledged before. Better to be prepared. I also made copies of important documents: birth certificate, passport, insurance policies, and the deed to my house, and scanned them to a secure cloud storage account. The physical copies went into a safety deposit box at my bank, which I visited during lunch. My next-door neighbor, Howard, was watering his lawn when I returned from the bank. He eyed the "For Sale" sign with curiosity. "Moving out. Linus. That is a shame. You have been a good neighbor." I hesitated, then decided a partial explanation might be helpful. "Not exactly. Having some family issues. If you see my parents or my brother around the house when I am not here, would you mind letting me know?" Howard's eyebrows shot up, but he nodded without pressing for details. "Sure thing. Family stuff can be complicated. My brother-in-law once tried to claim my boat as a family asset. Had to get the sheriff involved." His casual understanding was reassuring. "Thanks, Howard. I appreciate it." Back inside, I installed the security camera system I had purchased. On my way back from the bank, simple wireless cameras, covering my front door, back door, and driveway. The feed connected directly to my phone and laptop, providing real-time monitoring and recording capability. As I worked through these practical tasks, I found myself processing the emotions that had been building since the birthday dinner. There was anger, certainly, and hurt at the casual way my family had dismissed my feelings and accomplishments. But underneath those immediate reactions was a deeper sadness, mourning for the supportive family relationship I had always wanted but never truly had. By early afternoon, everything was in place. The Audi was securely stored, the for sale sign was prominently displayed, security measures were implemented, and legal consultations had confirmed my position. All that remained was to wait for my family to discover what I had done and respond. I settled at my dining room table, with my laptop attempting to focus on work, while anticipating the storm that would soon break. Despite the anxiety churning in my stomach, I felt an unfamiliar sense of power. For once, I was not reacting to my family's demands or manipulations. I was taking proactive steps to establish boundaries on my own terms. The waiting was about to end. At precisely 10:17 a.m., according to my security camera footage, my parents' silver Lexus pulled into my driveway, followed closely by Tyler in my mother's Honda. They had arrived exactly when Tyler said he would come to collect my car, and their confident postures as they stepped out of their vehicles suggested they fully expected to leave with the Audi. From my dining room window, I watched their initial confusion as they noticed the empty driveway, followed by visible shock when they spotted the for sale sign prominently displayed in the front yard. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, my father's face reddened noticeably, and Tyler stomped toward the sign as if it had personally offended him. I had deliberately parked my work laptop in a position where I could see the security camera feed while appearing to focus on work. The three of them huddled around the sign, gesturing animatedly. Tyler pulled out his phone, presumably to call me, while my father marched to the front door and rang the bell repeatedly. I remained still and silent. Though they knew I was typically at work at this hour, they seemed to believe I might be inside, ignoring them. After several minutes of unanswered knocking and ringing, they retreated to their cars, still looking bewildered and increasingly angry. When I finally turned my phone back on around noon, the barrage was exactly what I had expected. 17 missed calls, 29 text messages, and 5 voicemails. The texts escalated from confusion to anger to threats. "Where are you? Where is the car?" Tyler, 10:23 a.m. "Call us immediately." Dad, 10:25 a.m. "What is going on with the house? This is not funny." Mom, 10:31 a.m. "If you think this childish behavior will change anything, you are wrong." Dad, 10:45 a.m. "I need that car today." "You promised." Tyler, 1:08 a.m. "We are coming back at 6. Be there or we will call the police." Dad, 11:37 a.m. The voicemails followed a similar pattern, though Tyler's final message had a desperate edge I had never heard from him before. "Listen, Linus, I really need that car. I have got a job interview tomorrow, and I promised Amber I would take her somewhere nice tonight. You cannot do this to me. You have always been the responsible one, right? So, act like it. Call me back." The casual assumption that I would still provide the car after their behavior was stunning in its entitlement. Even now, after I had clearly taken action to resist their demands, they expected me to fall back in line. I responded with a single text to my father, "I will be home at 6. We can talk then." The afternoon passed with me alternating between productive work and anxiety about the coming confrontation. I prepared talking points, rehearsed firm but calm responses to anticipated accusations, and reminded myself repeatedly of the legal confirmations I had received. This was my house, my car, my life. At 5:45, I positioned myself in the living room with a clear view of the driveway. Right on time, my parents' car pulled up, followed moments later by Tyler. They marched to the front door, with the determined stride of people prepared for battle. I opened the door before they could knock, standing firmly in the threshold rather than inviting them in. "Hello. What in God's name do you think you are doing?" my father demanded, attempting to push past me into the house. I held my ground. "We can talk on the porch," I said calmly, stepping outside and closing the door behind me. "Where is the car?" Tyler asked immediately, looking around as if I might have hidden it behind a bush. "Somewhere safe," I replied. "And what is this?" My mother gestured wildly at the for sale sign. Are you having some kind of breakdown? Several neighbors were now visible in their yards or windows, watching the unfolding drama with undisguised interest. Howard, true to his word, had positioned himself by his hedge, ostensibly trimming it, but clearly monitoring the situation. I am establishing boundaries, I said, keeping my voice level, despite the anger building inside me. Last night made it clear that my property, whether it is my car or my house, is seen as communal family assets that can be claimed or threatened whenever it suits you. Do not be ridiculous, my father scoffed. We were not threatening you. We were reminding you of your family obligations. Family obligations, I repeated, feeling a surge of confidence as I finally spoke truths I had swallowed for years. Like the obligation to hand over a $45,000 car I worked years to afford, or the obligation to feel guilty for my success while enabling Tyler's irresponsibility. How dare you, my mother gasped. After everything we have done for you, what exactly have you done for me? I interrupted, surprising myself with my boldness. Co-signed a mortgage. I have never missed a payment on, shown up for birthdays where you demand I give away my possessions. Tyler, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly exploded. You selfish jerk, you have everything. A good job, a nice house, a fancy car. What do I have? Nothing. And you cannot even help me out this one time. This one time I laughed without humor. Tyler, I have loaned you thousands of dollars you never repaid. I have given up weekends to help you move when you get evicted. I have listened to endless excuses about why you cannot hold a job or manage your money. This is not one time. This is a pattern that stops today. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. So you are selling the house just to spite us after we helped you get it. I am not selling the house, I clarified. The sign is making a point, but I am refinancing the mortgage to remove you as co-signers. My attorney and mortgage broker are already working on it. That revelation seemed to stun them momentarily. My mother recovered first. Linus, honey, she said, her voice shifting to the soothing tone she had always used when trying to manage difficult situations. I think we all got a little carried away last night. We just want what is best for both our boys. Tyler is going through a rough patch, and we thought... Tyler has been going through a rough patch for 15 years, I interrupted. And your solution is always the same take from me to give to him. That is not fair, my father protested, though, with less conviction than before. What is not fair is making your financially responsible son feel guilty for his success while enabling your other son's poor choices, I countered. What is not fair is threatening my housing stability because I would not give away my car. An uncomfortable silence fell over the group. From the corner of my eye, I could see Howard had abandoned all pretense of hedge trimming and was watching openly along with several other neighbors. My mother broke the silence with a sigh. Tyler has been in some financial trouble again, she admitted. His credit cards are maxed out, and he is behind on rent. We promised him we would help. By giving him my car, I asked incredulously. We thought you would understand, my father, said, his anger seemingly deflating. You have always been the reliable one, the one we could count on. And that is exactly the problem, I said. You have counted on my reliability to compensate for Tyler's irresponsibility. You have taken advantage of my willingness to help. Well, not anymore. Tyler, who had been sulking during this exchange, suddenly looked up with tearful eyes. So, that is it. You are just cutting me off your own brother. The manipulation was so transparent I almost laughed. I am not cutting you off, Tyler. I am refusing to give you my car. There is a difference. What are we supposed to tell people? My mother asked, gesturing vaguely toward the neighbors. About the sign. About all of this. You can tell them the truth, I suggested. That you demanded I give my car to Tyler on my birthday, threatened my house when I refused, and I responded by protecting my assets and establishing boundaries. My father's face hardened again. This will have consequences, Linus. Family is forever, and you are burning bridges here. No, I corrected him. I am building boundaries. Healthy families respect boundaries. They do not treat them as obstacles to get what they want. We are leaving, my father announced abruptly, taking my mother's elbow. When you have calmed down and come to your senses, you can call us. Do not expect that call anytime soon, I replied evenly. As they turned to go, Tyler lingered, his expression a mix of anger and confusion. So what am I supposed to do about a car, he asked, as if the entire confrontation had not just occurred. The same thing most adults do, I answered. Save up and buy one you can afford. With that final exchange, they returned to their vehicles and drove away, my father's tires squealing slightly as he accelerated too quickly down the street. As I turned to go back inside, I caught Howard's eye across the yard. He gave me a subtle thumbs up before returning to his hedge trimming. That small gesture of support from a relative stranger felt more affirming than years of conditional approval from my own family. Inside, I locked the door, leaned against it, and finally allowed myself to process what had just happened. I had stood my ground. I had spoken truths I had swallowed for decades. And despite the threats and manipulation, I had not backed down. The relief was overwhelming, bringing with it tears I had not expected. They were not tears of sadness or regret, but of release, letting go of patterns and expectations that had constrained me for as long as I could remember. Whatever came next, I had taken the first step toward a more authentic life. The week following the confrontation passed in a strange limbo of silence and activity. My family did not contact me again, no calls, no texts, no surprise visits. It was the longest we had gone without communication in my adult life, and the silence was both unsettling and liberating. Marcus proved invaluable during this time, checking in daily and offering practical support when the emotional weight became overwhelming. You did the right thing, he reminded me repeatedly. They needed this wake-up call, and you needed to establish these boundaries years ago. Other friends stepped up in ways that surprised and touched me. Rachel, beyond providing the for sale sign, invited me to dinner with her family to ensure I was not spending too much time alone with my thoughts. Colleagues noticed my subdued mood, despite my attempts at normalcy, and offered encouragement without prying for details. The mortgage refinancing process moved forward with unexpected efficiency. My strong payment history and excellent credit score made approval straightforward, and the bank seemed eager to accommodate my request to remove my parents as co-signers. By the end of the week, I had signed preliminary paperwork and received assurance that the process would be complete within 21 days. This is actually quite common, the mortgage officer told me during our meeting. Family financial entanglements often need untangling as children establish independence. You are doing the responsible thing. That validation from a neutral professional strengthened my resolve during moments of doubt. There were many such moments late at night when I wondered if I had overreacted, or when a childhood photo appeared in my social media memories, reminding me of simpler times with my family. During the second week, the silence from my immediate family was broken by contact from extended relatives. My father's sister, Aunt Melissa, called on Wednesday evening. Your father told me you are having some kind of breakdown, she began, without preamble. Something about putting your house up for sale and hiding your car. I explained the actual situation calmly, including the birthday dinner demands and my response. Her initial skepticism gradually shifted to understanding. That sounds like Robert, she sighed, referring to my father. He and your mother have always had a blind spot when it comes to Tyler. Even as children, your father expected me to give up things for him because he was the boy and younger. Her perspective was illuminating the pattern extended beyond my generation. A family dynamic so deeply entrenched that it had seemed normal, until I finally stood against it. Not all extended family was as understanding. My mother's cousin called the following day, berating me for abandoning family in their time of need and suggesting I seek therapy for my selfish tendencies. I thanked her for her concern and ended the call, refusing to defend myself against someone who had clearly heard only one version of events. These interactions reinforced something important. I was not responsible for managing others' perceptions of me, especially when those perceptions were based on deliberately misleading information. This realization was surprisingly freeing. I did, however, take the suggestion about therapy seriously. The confrontation had unearthed decades of complicated feelings about my family, and professional support seemed wise as I navigated this new territory. I found a therapist specializing in family dynamics and scheduled a first appointment for the following week. By the end of the second week, I felt secure enough to move my car back from storage to my garage. The for sale sign remained in the yard until the mortgage refinancing was complete, a visual reminder of my commitment to establishing financial independence. During our first session, my therapist listened to the entire story without judgment before offering her perspective. "What strikes me," she said thoughtfully, "is not that you finally stood up to your family, but that you did so without malice. You took protective action rather than retaliatory action. That speaks to your character." I had not considered this distinction before. My actions had been bold, but focused on establishing boundaries rather than punishing my family. This frame helped me process some of the guilt that still surfaced occasionally. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I received unexpected news through Marcus, whose girlfriend worked at the same company as a friend of Tyler's. Apparently, Tyler had secured a used Toyota Camry, with financial help from our parents. The story he was telling friends was that I had freaked out and gone crazy over nothing, but he had moved on because family drama was not worth his energy. This revisionist history might have angered me earlier, but now it simply confirmed the wisdom of my actions. Tyler was continuing his pattern of avoiding responsibility and rewriting narratives to preserve his self-image. My parents were continuing to enable him. Nothing had changed for them, but everything had changed for me. With the mortgage refinancing complete by the end of the month, I finally removed the for sale sign from my yard. Howard helped me pull it up, commenting that the neighborhood would miss the excitement. "Best reality show we have had around here in years," he joked. As spring turned to summer, I settled into new routines that prioritized my well-being and cultivated relationships with people who respected boundaries. Weekly dinners with Marcus and his girlfriend became a highlight. I joined a local hiking group, finding unexpected pleasure in both the physical activity and the casual friendships that developed on the trails. My first major holiday, without family contact, Independence Day, appropriately enough, proved challenging but ultimately affirming. Rather than spending the day feeling lonely or resentful, I hosted a small barbecue for friends, creating new traditions to replace the old. Work became a source of not just financial stability but genuine satisfaction as I focused more energy on projects I found meaningful. Without the background drain of family drama, I discovered creative resources I had not realized were being depleted. When my birthday approached again the following April, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Marcus suggested a celebration completely different from the previous year's disaster, a weekend trip to a lakeside cabin with a small group of close friends. "You need to reclaim your birthday," he insisted. "Make new memories, to replace the old ones." He was right. The weekend was filled with hiking, board games, good food, and genuine connection. Everything a celebration should be. On the actual day of my birthday, I received a text from my mother, "Happy birthday, Linus. We miss you." Simple, without demands or accusations. I responded with equal simplicity. "Thank you." It was not reconciliation, but it was acknowledgement, a small step toward whatever our relationship might become in the future. By the 1-year anniversary of the confrontation, my life had transformed in ways both subtle and profound. The physical trappings remained largely the same. The same house, the same car, the same job. But my relationship with myself and others had fundamentally changed. I had learned to value my own needs without guilt, to recognize manipulation without internalizing it, and to build connections based on mutual respect rather than obligation. Most importantly, I had discovered that family, true family, is defined not by blood, but by how people treat each other. The friends who had supported me through this journey had become my chosen family, demonstrating the care and respect I had always sought from my relatives. The house and car that had become symbols of conflict were now simply what they should have been, all along the results of hard work, symbols of achievement, and sources of comfort, not bargaining chips or objects of entitlement. 1 year after that fateful birthday dinner, I find myself reflecting on how completely my life has changed, not in external circumstances, but in my internal landscape. The journey from being the family doormat to establishing firm boundaries has been challenging, but ultimately transformative. My relationship with my immediate family has evolved into something I never expected. After 3 months of complete silence, my mother reached out with a hesitant text, asking if we could meet for coffee. Our first conversation was awkward and laden with unspoken tensions, but it was a beginning. We now maintain limited contact, occasional texts, monthly phone calls, and rare in-person meetings at neutral locations. My father took longer to make contact his pride, apparently more wounded by my stand. When he finally called, 6 months after our confrontation, his approach was practical rather than emotional. "Your mother misses you," he said simply. "And I suppose things got out of hand last year." It was as close to an apology as I expected from him, and I accepted it as such. Our current relationship is cordial but distant, built on careful conversation that avoids the deeper issues still unresolved between us. Tyler and I have had the least reconciliation. He sent a text around Christmas that read simply, "Merry Christmas. Got a promotion at work." I responded with congratulations, and we have exchanged perhaps a dozen brief messages since then. According to my mother, he has maintained his job for nearly 9 months, now a record for him, and has been making payments on his car without parental assistance. Whether this represents genuine growth or simply a temporary phase is impossible to know, but I choose to hope it is the former. Regardless, his journey is now his own separate from mine, in ways that protect us both from the unhealthy dynamics of the past. The most profound changes have come in my non-family relationships. Marcus, always a good friend, has become like a brother. The kind of brother who celebrates your successes without resentment and offers support without keeping score. His wedding last fall, where I served as best man, was one of the most joyful days of my year. Other friendships have deepened as well, now that I am able to invest emotional energy previously consumed by family drama. My circle of close connections has grown, creating a chosen family bound by mutual respect and genuine care rather than obligation. Perhaps most surprisingly, I have found myself in a relationship that feels fundamentally different from any I had previously experienced. Catherine and I met through the hiking group I joined during my post-confrontation period of self-discovery. From the beginning, our connection was built on clear communication and respect for each other's boundaries. Qualities I now recognize as essential for healthy relationships of any kind. When I eventually shared the story of my family conflict with her, Catherine's response was enlightening. "You know what impressed me most about that story?" she asked. "Not that you stood up to them, though, that took courage. It is that you did it without burning everything down. You protected yourself while still leaving room for potential healing. That says a lot about who you are." Her perspective helped me see my actions in a new light. What had felt at times like a dramatic overreaction was in fact a measured response to years of boundary violations, firm enough to create real change, but not so destructive as to eliminate all possibility of future reconciliation. The refinanced mortgage, now solely in my name, represents more than just financial independence. It symbolizes my commitment to self-sufficiency and the recognition that helping family should never require surrendering my own security. My house has become truly mine, in ways beyond legal ownership, a space where I set the rules and define the terms of engagement. My midnight blue Audi, once a symbol of conflict, has returned to being simply a car I enjoy, driving a reward for hard work rather than an object of envy or entitlement. Tyler's success in maintaining his own vehicle, without my sacrifice, has proven what I suspected all along. When not enabled, he was capable of finding his own solutions. The professional support I sought after the confrontation has proven invaluable in processing the complex emotions surrounding family dynamics. My therapist helped me recognize patterns established in childhood that had continued to shape my adult relationships, not just with family, but in all areas of life. Learning to identify these patterns has allowed me to consciously choose different responses, breaking cycles that might otherwise have continued indefinitely. One of the most valuable lessons from this experience has been understanding the distinction between helping and enabling. True help empowers others to grow stronger and more independent. Enabling, disguised as help, actually weakens the recipient while draining the giver. My parents' approach to Tyler's struggles and their expectations of my role in solving them was classic enabling, benefiting no one in the long term. I have also gained clarity about the nature of genuine love. Real love does not demand sacrifice without consideration. It does not take advantage or manipulate through guilt. It respects boundaries, celebrates success, and supports growth, even when that growth involves saying no to unreasonable demands. The financial independence I had built before the confrontation proved crucial in allowing me to take a stand. Without it, I might have remained trapped in unhealthy patterns indefinitely. This realization has strengthened my commitment to maintaining that independence and helping others achieve it when possible. Perhaps most importantly, I have learned that standing up for yourself does not require burning bridges. My approach, taking decisive action while remaining open to eventual reconciliation, created space for relationships to evolve rather than simply ending them. Some family relationships have been redefined with healthier boundaries, while others have naturally faded as they proved unable to adapt to these changes. As I look toward the future, I feel a sense of peace that was unimaginable a year ago. The constant anxiety about family expectations and the guilt about setting limits have been replaced by confidence in my right to determine my own boundaries. This emotional freedom has created space for growth in all areas of my life: professional advancement, deeper friendships, and the potential for a healthy romantic partnership built on mutual respect. The journey from that birthday dinner to today has not been easy or straightforward. There have been moments of doubt, periods of grief for the family relationships I wished I had, and times when maintaining boundaries felt more exhausting than surrendering them would have been. But the reward a life authentically my own has been worth every difficult moment. For anyone watching who finds themselves in similar circumstances, caught in family dynamics that demand constant sacrifice without reciprocity, I hope my story offers both encouragement and a practical example. Standing up for yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. Boundaries are not walls to keep others out, but guidelines for how you deserve to be treated. Have you ever had to establish difficult boundaries with family members? How did you handle it? And what did you learn from the experience? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Your support means everything as we navigate these complex human journeys together. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the most valuable gift you can give yourself is the courage to say no to those who take you for granted.